Iran International recently posted that Benjamin Netanyahu stated for the first time that the mullah regime is going to fall, like the structural system is falling and that the regime is falling. Like, did you have you ever saw the post and what does Netanyahu statement means for the Iranian people?
So the Iranian people really appreciated when Prime Minister Netanyahu talks like that. Um, I think I think he has said this before. No, maybe not this clearly, but I have heard him say. Let me actually read the what you're talking about. Let me just read this update. So this is by Iran International saying Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Monday night that the foundations of Iran's ruling system had cracked and that it would eventually fall. Yeah, you're right. Actually, he has never said it this confident. Like he has always said that they're moving towards that, but he has never said it like this confident, like this certain. He seems more certain than ever before. I mean, Guy, you might correct us because if you have heard anything like this before from Netanyahu. But let me read the rest. And say, speaking at a farewell ceremony for outgoing Mossad chief David Barnea, Netanyahu said Iran had already paid a heavy price, according to a statement from the Prime Minister's office. Here's the direct quote from Netanyahu. He's saying the foundations of this terrorist regime in Iran have cracked. It will never return to what it was, and I tell you, it will fall in the end. Netanyahu said. So, Guy, do you have any comments on this regarding the internal politics of Israel and what this means? And has he ever said this before?
I also add,
Um,
I found an article on Iran International from a year ago from the 12-day war titled Netanyahu says Israeli attacks pave way for Iran regime change. So he's definitely spoken like this before.
So there's a slight difference. Okay, so that's what I remember, right? So paved way for regime fall is I've heard statements like that before, but saying it will fall, that is a bit new to me. Like that's a bit different. But thank you, Danny. That's a good to know. And yeah, go on, Guy.
so something important to keep in mind. I noticed two things about this quote. Um, one is there's no timetable. He didn't say it will fall soon. And other statements that we might discuss later or some other time, and I'll get to when that some other time might be on my one. So one is there's no timetable, and two, it's important to understand that this is Netanyahu's like political life mission. He has been talking about this since I think the late 90s. And there is an election that's going to be in either 3 or 4 months in Israel. And you can very easily look at this as, so it could be real confidence and it could be playing the political game for like showing this campaign as having been successful in getting, because he probably wanted regime change before the election, then he's going to get a landslide. In the case that wouldn't happen, which as of now seems likely, he might want to create the not illusion, but to emphasize, to stabilize the image in people's mind that it's only a matter of time and it's basically fallen. So there might be other reasons for him saying that are not actual confidence in it falling. I'm not saying he's not confident in it falling. In fact, I am actually confident in it falling. But there might be extenuating circumstances, let's say, that would cause him to say this at this time, especially considering it was said in the ceremony for replacing Mossad leaders. And I might talk about that in my one. So there's a statement here that I can read. It's a couple paragraphs long, and I don't want to like take over. So I can read it if you want, but It will take like a couple of minutes to read. That might be relevant.
How many minutes?
Like I know like Netanyahu stated
Wait,
that before,
Pedro, if you want to, let's go to the list of people, and then we could come. If you want to talk again, can you? I mean, Danny, who's next?
It's Guy, then Sketch, and then I'll call up Pedro after. Guy, if you wanted to read the statement, I can give you like 2 minutes. You think it's short enough?
Okay. Yeah. I think I'm doing 2 minutes. Okay. So the new leader of Mossad is from outside the organization. And now this is a Channel 14 report, so it should be taken with some grain of salt. They're not the most reliable, at least on certain things. So alongside the praises that he gave to the outgoing head of Mossad, David Barnea, the prime minister has felt a sense of amiss regarding the performance of the organization, meaning Mossad, in the last 2 campaigns against Iran, and especially in Lion's War, which is epic fury. This feeling that is shared by other people, but by people other than Netanyahu as well, is especially related to the topic of the destabilizing of the Iranian regime, but also to the fact that the Mossad was not was not impressive enough, according to this version, in the war against Iran. Now, it's important to say, unlike some statements, Barnea has never promised to Netanyahu or Trump that the Iranian regime would fall in such a short time. And the Mossad timetable was talking about a campaign that would last way beyond the kinetic stage, which is a very interesting statement, because that's where we are now, of the war, until the goal of regime change would be achieved. Let's see if there's anything else that's important here. And they have way less manpower than the army. Okay, even taking all of that, the political echelon, both in Jerusalem and in Washington, feels as though in this stage we could have been closer to the goal of regime change in Iran. Not all of the blame is placed on Mossad. And for example, the Kurdish military invasion of Iran plan was canceled in the last minute by President Trump, following pressure from Turkey's President Erdogan, and might have been able to change the picture. And we discussed this, that's bullshit, because the Iranian people would not have agreed to that, and you can't trust the Kurds. So that part of the report, people keep saying that Erdogan made him not do it. I don't believe it. I actually believe Trump's version, that they just stole the weapons. But regardless, this feeling of a miss is what caused Netanyahu to bring a new head of Mossad from outside the organization, against the current head of Mossad, against Barnea's stand, who wanted to bring his the vice head that he had to lead after him. Now, the person he's bringing now is known for his outside the box thinking. That's like his main, and for being a different voice in meetings that he was part of. So that's a statement. So it's true that we still want regime change, we still believe in regime change. If this report is true, it's also true that there is a disappointment that it is taking longer than originally expected.
Okay, interesting. Thank you for sharing that. All right,
let's go to Sketch.
All right, this has an international meaning too. I understand that he may have said that many times, and many times it may have been true. But the significance that it has now is that it's combined with signals from inside Iran. The president is trying to resign. They're not letting him resign. There's this battle between the mullahs and the IRGC approved mullahs, the IRGC approved clerics, and the clerics that represent oh my God, I'm forgetting the name of it. The more Durkas. There's a name, the
Paidari.
The Paidaris. Yeah, so there's this fight between the Paidaris and the IRGC for control of the nation. They start to see this as a military takeover of the Constitution. The person that has been technically on the international stage, the person that holds the title of leader, first of all, technically under the Constitution can't be a leader. Second of all, hasn't even been seen. These are big cracks, big problems on the world stage for the regime. So why does this messaging matter? It matters in the sense that's another point in the graph that draws a line to this government is unstable. And once that line goes high enough, you can declare this government as unable to negotiate, unable to maintain order in the country, and you get a government in exile. You get funds allocated somewhere else, and you get another people approving the decisions and the negotiations, and then you get to go in and take out whoever's there that doesn't agree. So that's where I would put this, because I do believe that this will probably have some internal politicking to do with Israel, but it's still a move on on a larger stage.
All right, thank you. Pedro?
Yes. So I know that what you're saying, Galando, is pretty accurate. But what I was saying is that Sketch was right in saying that the IRGC right now is has an internal fighting. Like right now, there's an internal fighting between the moderates and the hardliners, and even Armin Navabi clearly stated that the ceasefire is doing a lot more damage to the regime than the actual airstrikes. Because, I think you might heard of Maya Tusi about stating that when the airstrikes began, all the regime apparatus was united. But when the ceasefire was announced, that that was when the infighting started getting much more evident. So that's what I mean by saying that's why I think Netanyahu was saying those words, because he's seeing a lot of infighting within the regime. What do you think? What is your opinion of that, Galando?
So I don't disagree with any of that. And for the record, as I said, I agree that the regime is falling. I wanted to give the other angle so that people who might not be familiar with Israeli politics and with the context would know. And also, I actually would have expected him to make a more like a bolder statement, like it would fall soon or something along those lines. And the fact that he didn't, to me, goes along with the disappointment from the performance of Mossad so far in how fast it's taking and how fast it's going to take. So that's all I wanted to emphasize there. But I do agree with the point, and I do think that actually saying it might bring it closer to fruition. Like just by saying, "Oh yeah, it's falling," creates perception inside. People inside might be panicking, might be looking for a way out, and then becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Great point.
Okay. And also, Jonathan wants to ask, so how long until the Islamic regime completely fractures? Although I see that there's a lot of infighting, I don't see evidence of it breaking apart right now.
So when it comes to how long it will take, I think for us that's impossible to guess. But I could tell you, I spend a lot of time following regime propaganda and also listening to what the pro-regime people say. And if over the years I've seen this division and escalation has been escalating, like getting more and more, the internal division getting more and more. And I've been actually an advocate that this is the greatest of the weakness of the Islamic Republic for years. And I'm so happy that more people are now focusing on this more than anything else, right? I always said that this is the Islamic Republic has three fears, and people focus on two of them. I forget the third one, which is actually their Achilles heel. The first fear is United States and Israel and external pressure. The second fear is the uprising of the secular-minded Iranian people, which is a bigger threat even than the first one to them. But the third threat is the biggest one, which is their own people, their own false supporters turning against them. This is a lot of people think that the Islamic Republic makes irrational decisions But if you know that, if you understand that this is their main fear, justifiably, a lot of what they do actually makes logical sense, because they know that this is their greatest weakness. And so many of what they do assumes that the fear number 1 and 2 is the greatest fear, so they should basically making decisions to avoid that. But if you understand that this is their greatest weakness, you could see why they're focusing on avoiding their losing their own followers, right? So the division is increasing, and that means that we're getting closer to the fall of the Islamic Republic. To me, like, that is me watching things blow up help, like, that's good, that's get us closer to the fall of the Islamic Republic. But me seeing this division, that is a bigger indicator that we're getting closer and closer to the end. So, and in the past few months, I could tell you that this division has gone up like a hockey stick, like if you had the chart. So, like, if we were 5 years ago, we were at a 5, and then, I don't know, 2 years ago we were at like a 10. In the past few months, you would just all of a sudden drop to 90 or something like that. Like, it's like crazy. It's so high that they're not even trying to hide it anymore. Like, the Islamic Republic actually spent time trying to hide the division, and then they're like, fuck it, and they're coming out and saying, like, guys, stop fighting. And by saying guys, stop fighting, they're basically admitting that they're fighting internally, which is, I mean, guys, there's, to be clear, that there's 2 types of fighting. One that they used to be transparent about, the other one that they were trying to hide. And the one that they were transparent about was the one that they wanted to promote as a way to distract from the real one, right? So the whole hardliner versus reformer infighting, that's not what the infighting that I'm talking about. That's the infighting that the regime, the fake infighting that the regime engineered, and they would advertise that, like, they would want people to know about that infighting. But that infighting was to distract you away from when I say by the moderate is like reformer, that's fake. Like, none of these people are moderate or reformer, so-called moderate or reformer. But the actual infighting that I was paying attention to and was waiting to see how much it escalates over the years is hardliner versus hardliner, and that's what we're seeing right now. And even better would be IRGC versus IRGC. That's what we want to see. I mean, we have some of that right now, but it's mostly ex-IRGC versus IRGC. I want this to escalate to the point where we have current IRGC versus current IRGC. That would be the ultimate amount of division. And so, if you're asking for a timeline, I can't give you one, but the former head of Mossad, Barnea, gave us one, and I'm not saying he's correct, but I think given that he was head of Mossad until I think yesterday, I think we should take his timeline seriously. But he said 7 months if there's 2 conditions are met. He said the Islamic Republic will fall in 7 months. Just recently, he came out and said this. If 2 conditions are met, and those 2 conditions is that there is no deal and the blockade is not removed. If the blockade is not removed and there is no deal, he thinks the Islamic Republic will fall within 7 months. All right, Danny.
Okay. Sketch really quickly and then we move on.
Yes, this has an international aspect. Like you're saying, how much before it falls internally? If they have enough signals externally to be declared not in control, it doesn't matter how long internally they have to devolve into a literal civil war. Like they could have sometimes they do demonstrations and counter demonstration just for show, like they did with their spray painting each other's news stations, and you know that could escalate. But enough of those staged or true riots, and it's like these people are not even in charge anymore. We got to step in. So it's not just will they devolve internally. Don't take that as the sign that we would wait for. If there's enough signs of division, we would just jump in.
Okay, and Jeffrey, and then super chats.
Real quickly, so there's also sub-state, transnational, and track 2 material support efforts that are going on. You have other nations that are co-aligned, stepping in to assist Iranian resistance, not the least of which is Ukrainians. And I want to reach out real quick to how do I say her name? Mahari Mehri? I'm going to butcher that, forgive me. There are non and lesser kinetic lines of effort that you can pursue right now that will legitimately bring the pain to those mullah fuckers. Reach out to Ali, because I'm going to be working with him to have him be the main point of contact within this community regarding the lesser kinetic kinds of effort that deals with things like competitive open source intelligence gathering and link analysis.
By the way, that's Jeffrey. That's a very good idea. Because I'm so out of touch, and you guys want to basically work with people in this community. I think Ali and Guy are the best people right now to if you guys want to basically. And by the way, Sketch also, if you want to do, like, you could reach out to Ali and Guy if you have any collab ideas or anything like that, right? Because they're going to be in charge of certain segments. Okay. And yes, Danny, sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to move on, but I have a two from Mano, and I think he's a first-time speaker, so I'll let you go ahead and then we just
Second
have a
time
chance.
speaker. Yes, Mano, go ahead.
Oh, then I would know. Okay, it's fine.
Thanks, Armin. I was about to correct that. Thanks for the correction. Yeah, so just to piggyback on the topic around the possibility of regime collapse, I wanted to hear a bit of your thoughts around the development today, around the Iraqi militias and the transfer of the weapons to the Iraqi state, because that kind of signaled distancing from the Islamic regime. So obviously, when we talk about collapse, one of the variables to pay attention to is the weakening of the proxies. I believe that that would be one of the objectives if you want to destroy the regime. So given the fact that in the past decades we have seen different factions within the Iraqi militia distancing themselves from the regime, what signal does this provide to us in general?
That's a very good question. I've seen something regarding Hezbollah people complaining, which is supports this. But can you tell, before I go to that and tell you what I've seen, can you tell me exactly what did you see among which militias in Iraq that you're referring to? Can you tell me what's happening again?
I can't. So the Iraqi militia, just to paraphrase, they seem to be distancing themselves from the Islamic regime, and I'm just talking layman's terms. So they're focusing more on aligning with the local government over the Islamic regime. So I kind of did dig into it, and I saw that the Islamic regime spends about $100 to $700 million a year funding the Iraqi militia. So seeing another faction within the Iraqi militia turning away, they're apparently affiliated with the PMF. I thought, to me, that came across as a signal. So I wanted to get your sense, your view on that, rather.
Okay, so I'm looking into that, because if that's true, that's a big sign. You're right, that would be a big sign, because that means that they're assessing that this is a sinking ship. I've seen something else that actually supports your theory. I saw some videos from Hezbollah people complaining that the Islamic Republic is not paying them like they used to, and complaining that they have been abandoned. This is a very encouraging sign, because you would think the Islamic Republic, the last thing that they would want to cut would be funding to these militias, because that is basically the last line of defense, not just against the Israelis and the Americans, but also the Iranian people, right? So if that is given that here's the interesting thing. I was thinking, like, how could they not spend money on them, because they could cut so many other things before they get to not spending money on the militias. Like, the militias and the people who they use for enforcement mechanism would be the last thing they will cut. Ali was pointing out that maybe it's not because even though their revenue has dropped significantly, it hasn't dropped to the point where they can't pay these people. So but some people are saying that maybe it's more of a liquidity issue rather than a total number revenue issue. Like, some of the oil revenues that we're calculating is not just getting into their hands because all of the financial institutions are not working properly. A lot of the money is not making it back to Iran, even though technically some of the oil exports are still there through land routes and stuff like that. But if they're not paying the Hashd al-Shabi or Popular Mobilization Front, because the only way, if these people get paid, they will remain loyal, right? Hezbollah, Hashd al-Shabi, if they get paid, they will remain loyal. So if there's any sign that they are losing, I think it's beyond, like, this is a sign of something. If there is lack of loyalty, if they're basically moving in the right direction, it suggests that they're not getting paid. If they're not getting paid, it shows that Operation Economic Fury and the blockade on the Iranian ports must be really, really hurting if they can't pay the militias, because that's the last thing that they want to cut. What do you think about that?
Yes, actually, thanks for highlighting that Hezbollah people aren't paid. I wasn't aware of that. If that's the case, that's very powerful. I'm going to look out for the video, given that they're probably like the most powerful militia. So on the WhatsApp, not the WhatsApp group, on the chat, I did share the link on Al Arabiya, where Tom Barak, who's a special envoy for Syria and Iraq, was congratulating the militia for transferring the weapons. So his statement, I think, is very good PR, and it signals that things are going in the right direction in terms of weakening the regime in terms of their regional influence.
Okay, I also just double check if what you're saying is true. So it's true about Asa'ib Ahl. Okay, so this is one of some of the most powerful militias of the Islamic Republic in Iraq. They just announced they are handing their weapons over to Iraqi government. Holy shit, I didn't see that. Thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. Officially stepping away from Iran's independent resistance axis. This is, however, not true about Kataib Hezbollah. So this is the most hardline factions that are they're strictly refusing to disarm, and they remain fiercely loyal to the Islamic Republic in Tehran. So Asa'ib Ahl al-Haq, that's true about them. So that's a big thing, by the way. So Kataib Hezbollah, no. Asa'ib Ahl al-Haq, another proxy, Shia proxy group in Iraq, yes. Okay, this is good to know. Thank you.
Well, I didn't know they were significant. That's very good news then. Thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let's go to the super chat.
All right, we have another super chat by Attila, again, to Jeffrey. Jeffrey, you're here? Yeah, Jeffrey is here. Is he around? Okay. Yes, Jeffrey is here. Attila to Jeffrey with the super chat saying, "Thank you, Jeffrey. And I agree. War seems inevitable to me too. That's why we have to be realistic to not lose too many supporters. Hostile propaganda is more effective today, in my opinion." All right, Jeffrey, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to say again, thank you, Attila, for the send up and for the valid point. We were chatting back and forth on YouTube, so I'm kind of like my attention split, and it's obviously like counter strategic information influence operations is going to be a part of any comprehensive strategy against the Chinese Communist Party and match them and beat them at their own game at gray zone conflict.
My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.